Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, back to do second review of the day. This is a Roman Props MK1 I just finished for Brian. Brian wanted a vintage weathered looking MK1 with Teensysaber and Neopixels. So what we did was apply some black patina and some gun blue to these sections as well as the bottom, and then do some dry painting techniques on this part to give it a weathered look. This is essentially a before and after for you. This is what it used to look like on the right. Pretty big change as far as the overall aesthetic. The other things that Brian wanted to focus on was, first of all, to give it a larger battery. So we used a Goth 3D Paladin chassis on this. The battery sits in the grenade section here, which is got a huge inside, a 1.5 inch diameter probably, so there's a lot of room in there. So I cleaned out the chassis section and widened it by 3mm so that we could put a 2170 instead of an 18650 in there. So this has a Samsung 5000 milliamp hour battery in it now. So the battery sits here, the speaker sits in the middle, and the sound card sits down the end with the other access to the ports down here. The next change that we did was he wanted to have bigger sound, so rather than do the standard premium 28mm speaker in this, we did a 31mm speaker because, again, there's a lot of room inside the clamp. What's the difference, you ask? There's the difference. This is the standard speaker that most people will use in a lightsaber build. This is the 31mm. That's side by side. Massive difference in magnet size. 3mm doesn't sound like a lot, but in a sense it kind of is a lot. So this is what's in there now, which gives the saber a more potent, louder, stronger sound. And because the Teensysaber has a bigger amplifier section than just about any sound card on the market, probably any sound card on the market, it's got a 3-watt amplifier in it instead of the standard, I believe, is 2 watts on most cards. This guy can push a bigger speaker without any problems or any distortion. Let's jump right into it. Actually, before we get there, the switches are under the bubble card here. Auxiliary port here, or auxiliary switch here. Activation switch here. I think you guys can hear this. Really clean action on the buttons. When doing switches under clamp cards, it's difficult sometimes because in order to tighten the clamp down enough that it doesn't move around on the hilt, you got to really crank it down and clamp it tightly. But when you do that, that also clamps the clamp card tightly. So when you try to push on it to push the switch underneath, it's too tight to move. The little plastic strip here gets locked in place. So the solution for that is you need to cut it down a bit. You want to sand it down on the sides to shrink it widthwise, and vertically you want to take down a little bit of the thickness as well. So width and height. So the way it works is the C channel here, the clamp has a C groove on both sides, and the clamp card slides up into it like that, and the metal clamp grips it on the sides. So if you take a little bit of the side and the top and bottom of that plastic material away, then it has room to still move inside the clamp while allowing the clamps to still be extremely tight. So that's the trick with that. The next thing is you want to make sure that the holes that are in the clamp here are unobstructed so that the sound from the speaker can come out through those holes. Otherwise, this is going to be a really quiet saber, and you're not going to hear a lot of the sound effects. Now, to access the SD card and the USB port and the kill switch, pop the pommel cap off. I use a little plastic spudger, but you could just pop it off with your fingernail if you like. But there's your SD card right there, USB, and then that's the kill switch right there. Let me focus it in for you guys. So on the bottom is the kill switch. Just activated it. We'll recap it real quick. Now, the internals. You could slide the pommel section down and actually just take it off if you like. You have your SD card sitting here. Again, here's your ports. You'll notice it's very thin, very skinny chassis. There's not much room to work with on this end. There's a ton of room here and here. There's not much down here. And that's because of the design of the hilt. You'll see that for whatever reason, Roman designed this to make this section extremely thick. So you have to have a skinny chassis to fit inside there, which makes accent LEDs difficult. So what I did was designed a new idea of a Neopixel Band. Those of you who follow me on Facebook and Instagram will recognize this guy. This is a Neopixel Band that I did a couple of weeks ago. It's 8 sections of 2 pixel strips. The wires that connect them also act as a rigid frame, so rather than stranded wire, I used solid core wire. And they run sequentially from bottom to top, then from left to right, so the signal comes in down on this guy, then goes up to here, back down here and up, down here and up, and so on and so forth, all the way around. So when you fire it up, it goes around in a circle like this, like a band, but rather than just 1 pixel wide, it's 2. The point of that is twofold. You can do a little bit more as far as effects goes with 2 layers, and you have the entire center of this to put the rest of the components that need to be inside the saber in. So this band that you're seeing on the screen is sitting right in here, and the sound card and the wiring that needs to go from this end of the saber to here passes right through the center of that band. That's the only real way to get fully functioning accent LEDs and cycles and stuff inside this chassis. Otherwise, you'd have to cut sections away and, glue things and just get sloppy. Obviously, we don't want to do that, so that was the idea behind this guy. Now, go ahead and fire it up for you guys. The first blade color is blue, and the cycle follows that. So it goes to a solid blue when it's fully ignited. Starts up, ramps up from white. It spins back down. And that continues throughout. So all the different blade presets that you have in here, the color cycle, color band is going to match that. Next one is green. And there you go. Well, the other thing I forgot to mention is the recharge port for this guy. It's located right here. It's a very small 1.3 millimeter as opposed to a standard 2.1 millimeter recharge port. Again, this space is at a premium at this end of the hilt, so a little tiny one is what's required. This is the recharge cable that I built specifically for this guy. It's got a little tiny 1.3 millimeter plug. Clicks in like that. On one end is that, this end, a dummy cell battery. Now the idea here is that this will plug into any standard lithium battery charger. So, for example, my ultimate favorite battery charger in the entire world, the Opus BTC3100. Just take this guy, stick it in one bay, and the charger thinks that's a battery. So it starts charging that battery, which in turn the juice runs through the cable down to the Saber. So you have really efficient, safe, powerful charger connected to absolutely directly to your Saber, rather than using just a cheapo wall plug, wall wart type setup, because those things are just, well, garbage. Let's take this opportunity real quick to do a sales plug on this guy. This is a terrific charger. If you guys are into lightsabers or vaping or anything else that requires rechargeable lithium batteries, I can't recommend this guy enough. It's got a bunch of different modes. You can repair batteries with this guy, refresh, recharge, test batteries. You can do all sorts of stuff with this that are hugely handy, whereas a wall plug will do nothing more than plug it in, red light when it's charging, green light when it's done charging. This guy will tell you exactly what the current is, exactly what your voltage is, how much longer it's going to take to charge. You can charge at 200 milliamps all the way up to 2 amps per hour. So 4 bays, fast charging. This guy is a beast. I've had this one as my shop charger for 3 years now, maybe longer. Never had a problem with it. So everybody watching, go get one. Alright, let's run through the blades. We did a TCSS pogo pin connector on this guy. It's a 1-inch blade. And you lock the blade in on this guy with this little tiny 1.3 millimeter hex screw. Slide it in, tighten it up. Bob's your uncle. Let's get back to the beginning of the blade presets. So blue to start with. Blue fire. The blue cycle blade. Standard green with a white flash. Green fire blade. Green cycle blade. Nice slow ignition sunlight colored blade. Slow ignition, slow retraction. Super fast ignition, aqua, or yeah, I guess I'd call it an aqua blade with a real heavy pulse. This is the unicorn blade. This was a contribution from a Imperial or Rebel Armory Forum member. I can't think of his name offhand right now, but he did the coding for this, and it's silly but fantastic. It's like a cycle blade that ramps up into the rainbow blade, but rather than having it going up and down, it rainbows the whole blade all at once. And it's just like, it's silly, but it's intensely bright and just in your face. This is a really slow ramp, audio flicker, blood orange colored blade. It's a standard fire blade. Strobe blade, my favorite.
Force Awakens graphics.
This is the POV blade. Here's your rainbow blade. And now I think we get into the more experimental stuff that I was just creating and messing around with last night. So what that was a cycle blade effect ramping into a standard blade. So rather than just cycling on like a Tron blade and staying the same color, this cycles up to a standard blue blade. And it does it really quickly. I just thought it was a cool effect. Next one is green, same idea. It's another unicorn style, but with a fast ignition. Then I believe next is red. Oh, this is that sunlight yellow color again. And then red. So these are kind of still experimental, kind of just messing around with code to see what can be done. But rather than just having the saber ignite from bottom to top, you know, the standard canon way you see in the movies, this is just a new ignition, basically. Kind of a cool effect. Another plus that you only are going to get with the Teensysaber, or at least another Arduino-based board. This is your battery meter blade. And back to the beginning again. And there she is. Thank you guys for watching. Brian, let me know what you think. If there's any changes you want to make before I send it out, let me know. But otherwise, she's ready to go. And stay tuned for a couple more reviews coming up very shortly.